Welcome to Sports Geek Q&A. Here's your host, Sean Callanan.
Yes, I'm Sean Callanan from Sports Geek, and this is Sports Geek Q&A. Remember, you can send in your question a multitude of ways. You can do it via Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can send me an email, sean@sportsgeekhq.com. Please send in your questions on any topic you want me to answer. Don't forget, you can support our podcasting and newsletter efforts via Patreon. Simply go to sportsgeekhq.com/Patreon. For as little as $4 a month, you can support this podcast. Let's get into the questions. This question comes from Lawrence West. In all your work with sports teams and codes, visits to games, and guests you've interviewed, what are your top 3 sponsor integrations in sport, and why, in your eyes, are they so good? First of all, Lawrence, 3. I've only got 10 minutes here, but please, Lawrence, if you don't know, listeners, Lawrence is a former guest of the podcast, episode 241. Please go check out my chat with Lawrence, sportsgeekhq.com/241. I'm not going to get to 3 because that's going to take up a whole episode, and that would just be greedy, Lawrence. I've got 2 more questions in this episode. So here's one that I do like, and it was presented by Aloom Jafar from MLSC, Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, earlier this year at National Sports Forum. And he presented this case study, and I absolutely loved it. And so it is around the Raptors and Google Home. And so they did a really good campaign. And they really, and I'll get into the details of the campaign, but the bit that I like is the way they went about it. And the guys at MLSC have done a really good job with that sports teams can be an agency model, which effectively is part of the basis of what digital to dollars is. Know your pitch. How can you pitch to a brand like an agency? And they effectively did that here. Rather than just saying, here's Google Home and we'll put your logo on some Raptor posts and say we've done it, they built out ads that used the product, that were authentic. And the one in particular is Pascal Siakam and Jacob Poeltl sitting in bed talking to Google and telling Google, hey, put on another episode of Gilmore Girls. And for those people in the Australian market, they might recognise that as an ad because the campaign went so well and worked so well in Canada with the Raptors that Google actually applied that same campaign in Australia with Melbourne Ruckman, Max Gawn, again using Google Home to watch episodes of Gilmore Girls. So when you actually have your campaign stolen and used on the other side of the world, I think it's a really good campaign. So that's just, again, from the execution point of view, I really loved both the way they went about it, but then they obviously executed it. And then when one of the phrases I like is steal with pride. When it gets used on the other side of the world, you must be doing something good. So that's one. I will come back to you, Lawrence, in email and send you a couple more because I know I owe you 2 more. Question 2 comes from Angela Lee via LinkedIn. She says, our company is new to Australian esports scene, and we'd like to focus on content creation. Focusing on music, dance, and esports since our primary program stems in K-pop. What is the appetite for this kind of content, and would it be better to invest in Twitch or Mixer for channel development? Would it be better to focus on specific titles or better to look across different titles from major to indie? Well, Angela, thank you very much for the question. I think you've gone in with the multiple barrel question, but I'll answer it as best I can. For mine, this is pretty much tackled in digital to dollars because there is a few key pillars here. You're asking what channel should we work in? Should I invest in Twitch and Mixer? That's your distribution piece. Know your distribution. What channel is going to work for you? But if we go back a little bit further, you've also asked, this is what we do. We're doing K-pop style content and music dance content for our primary programs. Okay, so that's your content piece, which means you should go back one step further and go, who is your audience? Who should you be doing it for? Are you trying to get more people into your primary program? Are you trying to get people to follow you and follow your sports team? What is your goal and what you're trying to do? So I think there is a little bit of work there for you to decide what is the objective of what you're trying to do, what is the key audience. So start there. Who do you want to talk to? Then what content do they like? As far as what is it going to work, I can't tell you that. The good thing about digital is you can test and test and test. So I'd be doing K-pop content, I'd be doing esports content, I'd be doing different content, see what moves the needle. And what do I mean by moving the needle? Is it getting views? Is it getting engagement? Are people complaining when you don't post it? That means you've got something good. And then as far as distribution goes, if I'm picking between Twitch and Mixer, for those of you who don't know, Twitch is obviously the big player in the market. Mixer is Microsoft's streaming challenger. I'd actually be questioning whether streaming is the channel that you should be looking at. From what you've said and from our small discussions that we've had, maybe you're better suited to short videos on Twitter or even maybe Instagram stories, those kind of things. So they're the things I'd be testing because for me, streaming is a far longer form piece of content and really tough from a content creator to produce that length of content. So that's what I'd be looking at. Audience, know your audience, who are you doing it for, then producing content for that audience, and then figuring out what channel, what platform, what distribution is best for that content. That's how I'd tackle it. I mean, if I'm doing the full digital dollars process, I'd be looking at what's the value and what's the pitch, and is there a commercial outcome for what you're trying to do? So are you trying to drive subscribers or people signing up for programs, those kind of things? Because that'll, again, frame what your audience should be. So thank you very much, Angela, for your question. Question 3 comes from Gurev from LinkedIn. Please share a couple of your biggest learnings of how young entrepreneurs who are planning to start or emerging to scale up in the sports industry at a global stage. So, Gurev, I think this is an absolutely exciting time to be entering the world of sports, and especially if you are in that startup space. The sports tech sector overall, globally, is getting more and more traction. We're seeing sports tech specific accelerators. We're seeing more and more tech applied to both the pro scene and the grassroots scene. And there's networks available that enable you to connect with key players in a global market. So where previously it was very hard to connect with people in different markets, it is now far easier. The fact that we are connected via LinkedIn, with you being in India and me being in Melbourne, Australia, 10, 12 years ago, that was near impossible. It wouldn't have happened. And so it's quite easy for you to connect with the right people. There's a growing resource for what you can do in the space and advice and those kind of things. And as I said before, there's accelerators that are specifically looking at the sports tech sector. Listen to my episode with Tim Hayden recently from Stadia Ventures. And there's a whole bunch of people in that space that are looking to help and looking for sports tech companies to help them grow. So I'm going to wrap this episode up as we're here. I don't know if you're hearing the hail that's happening in the background as I'm recording this one, but it seems like a good time to wrap up this episode. Thanks again to Angela, Lawrence, and Gurev for the questions this week. Remember, you can send in a question. If you're listening to this in LinkedIn, ask a question in the comments. If you're listening to it on Facebook, ask a question in the comments. Otherwise, send me an email, sean@sportsgeekhq.com. And as always, I'd love your support on Patreon. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/Patreon to pledge your monthly support. Until next episode, my name is Sean Callanan, and you've been listening to Sports Geek.
You can reach Sean Callanan via email at sean@sportsgeekhq.com. Find out more about SportsGeek's Digital to Dollars process at digitaltodollars.com.
Go to sportsgeekhq.com for more sports digital marketing resources.